I'm Andy Erwin, and this is the Storytellers. Coming up on this edition of the Storytellers, this guy is one of my favorite human beings on the planet. He's the real deal. I love this guy. He is somebody that we got a chance to work with years ago, and we became really, really close friends. And since then, have stayed in touch and hung out. But I've never been around somebody that I feel like has more integrity as an artist as this guy. He's just so much fun. We laugh a lot together. You know him from shows like Riverdale, but also from I Still Believe, and he's got a movie that's coming out soon called One Fast Move that he's fantastic in. Today is epic because I've got KJ Apa on the podcast. Welcome to the Storytellers, buddy.
Hey, brother. Thanks for having me, man. You've been looking forward to this, actually.
I know. I was at your house just like a month ago or something like that. And you have a raptor behind you in this, and it's not painted on, like, that's an actual like life-size like plastic raptor. Where did it come from?
I think I got it off the side of the road, actually. When I first moved into this house, I was looking for stuff, and I was driving down La Cienega, and it was outside this framing shop.
Yeah.
I got an ape upstairs. I got a moose down the hallway.
How did you get it home? Did you stuff it into the back seat of your car?
You can take the tail off. You can unscrew it. You can take it off, and I put it in the back of my truck.
Dude, I love it. Like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, that is the best thing I've ever seen in somebody's like dining room. It's incredible.
It's pretty cool. I don't know if it's going to stay in the dining room. I'd have to go back in the garage, but we'll see.
That's awesome. Well, dude, when we were there, when we were hanging out, like, lately you've been spending a lot more time with your art, and you've been doing like a lot of art. And like when I saw it, like, it's incredible, man. It's like really, really good. Like, even the bottom of your pool is like custom painted like art. It's incredible. Yeah.
Actually, the pool, a really good friend of mine, Danny Minnick, he's an incredible artist. When I finished on the show, he invited me to come assist him. So I worked for him for 4 months, and he ended up painting my pool. This is his painting behind me.
That's fantastic.
That painting behind me, he painted during the shooting of One Fast Move in the hotel room that he was in. We went and picked up like 3 canvases. We set up the whole thing, and I just watched him paint it. And when I saw that, I was like, I want to do that. And then as soon as we finished, I went back to the show. That ended, and then I started working for him. And now I've got my own studio and stuff. But it was actually it was him who introduced me to that world, like the expression through color and stuff like that. Because all the other stuff that I was doing was kind of black and white, traditional Samoan tatau designs.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like, then the stuff's really, really good. And like, you've got a show coming up where you're going to start selling this stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a spring break show in LA. It's a pretty chill show. It's a great show. It's a great entryway show. But I'm like taking any opportunity I can get to kind of put my stuff out there. I need to start selling some stuff. My studio is getting
kind of full,
pretty crammed right now. Yeah.
Well, like every time I see you, you've got like paint all over your clothes, and
I know, dude. I keep ruining all of my clothes. People go, "Hey, man, where'd you buy that?" I was like, "No, dude,
that's a product in the system, man." That's incredible. I love it. Well, what because you really gravitated towards it, and like it became like your main thing for a little while. Where you just like really. Did it help you process coming off like Riverdale and like?
Man, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stuff that I was doing before, which is really intricate, black and white Samoan, because my dad's Samoan and I'm part Samoan. I did all throughout the show. It was kind of the only thing that I had that I could control in my world creatively, other than music. While being on that show, and it was just a great thing to have outside of the show where I could be creative and use my voice in that kind of way. But getting off of the show, it became different with the color and more spontaneous expression, where it's like there's nothing really in my head. It's just blank canvas, paintbrush, and I just run with it. But that got me through a lot, man. Honestly, the studio and having Danny kind of mentor me in that way really helped me navigate the new life that I was. Dude, I was like, we were all dreaming about what it was going to be like after the show. Since like after season 2, we were like, man, I couldn't even imagine my life
Yeah.
out of Vancouver in LA, and things changed really quickly. It changed overnight, not having a call sheet, not having an AD
Yeah.
telling me where to be. It was scary, dude. It was scary. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, it's almost like, people that come out of a prison system and then they kind of have to rehabilitate to like life outside the walls. You get used to like the routine and like, people telling you what to do. It's probably like, oh my gosh.
Well, it's interesting, man, because like before you start a show like that, Warner Brothers takes you through this, they take you through this, I guess, a specialized class of how to carry yourself in environments that's a successful TV show will take you to. And I'm this like young 18-year-old. I was 17. We shot the pilot. Yeah, and all of these guys who were on CW shows that had been picked up were you were forced to go to this thing at Warner Brothers, and it's like fake interviews, getting out of cars, red carpet,
it's like a
and then you go
boot
back,
camp.
you look at your interviews. It's a boot camp, and honestly, it's really helpful because it's like they'll go back through your interview and they'll say, yeah, so you should stay away from talking about politics, stay away from talking about anything controversial.
I would so fail this class.
Dude, I failed. I had to do the interview like 3 times. I was so innocent and naive. I was like, so what? They were like asking you questions like, so what do you think about Donald Trump? Blah,
like,
blah, blah.
Uh-oh.
I was like, I think I can't remember what I said, but it definitely wasn't good.
They had like a red light that goes off behind you when you get it wrong. Like, start over.
Yeah, man. But I was thinking in my mind after the show, I was thinking like, I need a class to take to learn how to live after the show.
Wow.
Because I realized, man, I was getting all of my, and I'm still going through it right now. I was getting a lot of my self-esteem, a lot of my self-worth from the attention that I was getting on the show and my purpose on the show, which is brilliant. I'm so grateful for it and the opportunity. I would not be where I am if it weren't for that. I wouldn't have been able to shoot that movie with you if it weren't for that, So back to real life now is like I'm really having to learn how to be still. It's really tough for me to stay still.
That's so hard.
Yeah, and just to stay busy, and the art really gave me a way to give me something to do every day.
Well, I want to talk about that, like, because I want to work our way back towards it. I mean, I think when we did I Still Believe, you and I really, really connected. Like I really enjoyed that time with you. I think we processed the world kind of similarly, and even the challenges that come with the industry we kind of embrace similarly. So like for you, I mean, you were 17 when you came to the US to start acting. You've gone from like, you were a guitarist by nature, you busk on street corners, and then you were like a soap opera in New Zealand. And then you end up in the US as a 17-year-old kid. Like, what was that like? And then how did you land Riverdale?
Yeah, so I came over here. The first time I came over here, I was 16. And my agent from New Zealand, Mandy Jacobson, who I'm still with right now, she flew me over, paid for the flight. She really believed in me. And, when I think back on that, I'm like, all you need sometimes is one person to just believe that you have it. And when someone believes in you, they're willing to take you all the way. And as a kid, she took me all the way. I didn't have to pay for anything. She just believed in me, and I believed in myself. And I knew I was going to leave New Zealand. I didn't quite know what I was going to do, but I knew that I enjoyed acting, and that there was a path there for me to express myself. So I came over here, and it's so funny. Like, you come over here, and when you're a kid, it's like I was fearless. I was completely. I knew I was going to be good. I knew I was going to get work. My parents supported me. They were like, "Oh my God, he's leaving high school." Like, they were fully supportive. And I remember my dad being like, I had to talk to him, and I had to kind of convince him. I was like, "Dad, like, you just got to know that you just got to trust me." Because I know that this is something that I'm going to do. And he supported me, and I came over here. The first audition that I had was for a Lasse Hallström film.
Yeah, Dog's Purpose.
A Dog's Purpose, which I ended up getting.
And you
I
played a young Dennis Quaid, and you starred across from Britt Robertson. So, Like all of our films converge on that one moment. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And that was my first audition.
Wow. And you landed it.
And it took a while, to get the callback and stuff. And I'd done a bunch after that. And John Papsadera was casting. I love John.
Yeah.
And he cast me in that movie along with Alasa. And then shortly after that audition, I'd auditioned for Riverdale, and there were a few rounds on that. I don't know the complete process, but they'd already actually seen me once. And I came back again, and they were like, "Wait, did you come in?" I was like, "Yeah, I came in like 4 weeks ago." And they were like, "Okay." And then it started to happen pretty quick after that. But I wasn't really in LA. I was in LA for 6 months before Riverdale took me to Vancouver for the 7 years, and now here I am.
Dude, what was it like the first time that, like, so, I mean, you're Samoan, so like, you know, jet black hair. What was it the first time you saw the red hair on you? Like, how did you respond when you looked in the mirror?
Dude, it wasn't just my hair, it was my eyebrows.
Right.
They bleached my eyebrows, they bleached my hair. It was a full 2 days in a salon. It was like a scientist curating this thing, and he was like, and at first they didn't do a good job. The salon, whoever it was at that time, and we went back to the studio to show them it, and it was all like, it wasn't red. It took a long time to get the right potion.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Right.
To get that the iconic Archie red.
Yep.
But we ended up getting there, and then at some point, dude, I was like, guys, I can't keep doing my eyebrows. It was like hurts.
Yeah.
You know, it's really painful. But the first time seeing that, dude, I liked it, actually. I remember just being like, do whatever you want to do for me to be on the show, man. I was so pumped to just work.
Dude, and it, like, when the red hair became like the signature, I mean, it was like the most iconic redheads on the planet at the time were you and Conan O'Brien. It's like the red hair is like the signature. And you can't hide.
Yeah, one's real and one's fake.
Yeah, one's real and one's fake. Yeah, Conan comes by it honestly. But like I've been out, like I've hung out with you a lot when we do the movie and your hair's dark, but when your hair was red, you can't hide. It was like,
no, man, it was crazy. For a minute there was a specific period of time where the show was so big.
Yeah.
It was tough to get really anywhere. And then every time I dyed it back during my hiatus, it was like nobody recognized me. I loved it.
Yeah.
And now after the show, now that I'm indefinitely myself with black hair, I'm like, I almost wish my hair was red so I got a little more attention, you know?
I've been fascinated with that. So in the show, I mean, 7 years of the show, and it got crazy. Like, because when we would travel together, and like I was like, I got paranoid for you because like you'd show up at the airport. You know, I flew with you from Vancouver to like JFK, and there were fans waiting for your flight to get in with signs, and I'm like, how do they even know your flight number? Like, did you get a little paranoid there? You know, with all the attention.
Yeah.
Or did you just get used to it?
It was strange. And it still is strange. It's not something I've ever gotten used to. But it's actually, it's really inspiring to me that the work that you make can really have that much of an impact on people.
Yeah.
And for people to come to the airport, like people that have never met you before, it really struck me. And it's still something that I haven't quite gotten used to. But I think we can all relate to that on some level. Like there's people who I really admire that I would potentially do the same for. I don't know, but that I look up to, and people whose art really, really hits me, you know. And our show did that for a lot of people. I'm so proud of it, man. I'm so proud of what we did.
Huh. You know, the other part of that, the opposite side of that equation that you mentioned, you know, a couple of times, is the weird thing about this industry, and I've kind of had to face it lately, because I chose to take a little bit of time off after American Underdog to just produce and to be closer to home for my family, and it's interesting, this industry, like you can be like the hottest thing in the world, but they forget so quickly. You know, over, you know, a moment, when the moment ends, like the train kind of moves on, and there's this weird feeling when all of a sudden the show ends and it's over, and then you have to find the next thing. that in between time, what's it been like, once the door's closed on it and you're figuring out like, where do I fit? Like, cause I've wrestled with that too. That I think you said like the contradiction between finding stillness where I'm okay with the quiet, but then also being able to be busy and not just become apathetic, like finding like, what do I want to do?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think like it's as an actor, like not having the ability to open a lot of my own doors unless it's projects that I'm developing. Like I'm not the kind of person that can kind of sit around and wait for doors to open for me, and when you're in those valleys, when I'm in those valleys, it's really important for me to stay out of self.
Yeah.
And to stay out of just like self-obsession thinking. Like I need to get out of my own head, call somebody else how they're doing. At the end of the day, I know that like, and it's easier said than done. Like I am exactly where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
And it's also important to remember when you're in the peaks and you come out of the valley and you're in a peak, that it's also not going to last too. And now that I know that I'm, yeah. And now that I've literally experienced that on this show, I now don't take any of it for granted. And it's like just staying in the middle of the pack in a way, and like realizing that when you are in the peak, everything's still the same. It's like attention and fame almost isn't even really real at some point because you're still the same person,
Yeah.
You're still the exact same person. There's a really great book by, it's called Modern Eden.
Okay.
Jack London.
Okay.
Is the author of that book.
Yeah.
And the main character goes through the most extreme version of this as a writer, and he gets so famous, and he's perplexed at the end because he can't really figure out where all these people who want to now have dinner with him and be around him, he can't understand where they were while the work was being produced, because he was while he was working on the stuff, they didn't want to have a bar of him, and then when the work is published and becomes famous, everyone wants a piece of him, but he couldn't understand it because he was the exact same guy.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one to navigate.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to navigate.
Yeah. I'm like so much of what you said, I totally, I agree with, because I think, what keeps me grounded and where I find serenity in life is this idea, like you said, that when you have a peak moment, like where you're the hot commodity or you're the flavor of the month, realizing like everybody's going to heap praise on you, but that moment, it's like sand sifting through your hands. Like you can't hold on to it. And when you do try to hold on to it, it just makes you miserable. But when you just kind of have an open hand and be like, this is a cool moment. This doesn't change who I am. This is a cool moment to appreciate and to have gratitude for, but this doesn't define me.
It's all temporary.
It's all temporary. And then when there's the moments where it's quiet, it's like I have every bit as much value in between. And when I'm just doing things that, loving on my family, or I'm, investing in kind of maybe long-term things, I might not be
and that value.
Yeah.
And that value that you're talking about is important for me as I'm kind of navigating this is the values should remain consistent through the peaks or the valleys, being the values that give me my self-worth and self-esteem are the father that I am, the friend that I am, the son that I am. And those values should remain consistent in the peaks.
Yep.
And then should also stay the same in the valleys when you're not getting what you think that you deserve.
Yeah, I love that. For me and you, when we did I Still Believe, when that kind of came head to head and we were going to do that movie, we were looking for who was going to play Jeremy, and there've been a lot of names thrown out, and when your name was thrown out, I hadn't watched Riverdale before, but like the casting director's assistant was obsessed with the show, and she's like, KJ Appa, and then we offered the role to you, and you turned it down a couple of times, and but we had a Zoom where we connected and we talked, and like after that point, I was obsessed with you. I was like if he says no, we're not doing the movie. Like it's him. It's only him. And then because I think the things that you said no for all the right reasons. It wasn't like I'm above this, or you're not a big enough whatever director for me, or do you know how big of a following? It wasn't any of that. It was about like I want to do justice to the material, and I don't know if I can pull off X, Y, and Z. and you were so vulnerable and honest. I was like, that's the dude. We will do whatever we have to make this work. Like, what was that? What do you recall about that moment for you?
I remember exactly where I was when we had the official phone call, where I officially signed on to it. Dude, my agents were also convincing me to do it because the script was amazing. Yeah. You guys are amazing. And everything was green. You know, it was me that I had so much doubt in my ability to play that role. I guess less doubt in my ability, but more of like just playing a real life character.
Yeah, the responsibility.
Responsibility was huge.
It wasn't
and
just
I'd never done
it wasn't
like
a comic book character anymore. It was like somebody that's you're gonna look in the eyes.
Exactly. And I'm going to meet this guy. I'm going to meet his family. I'm going to meet his kids and his wife, who's also a huge part of the story.
Right.
And that was, and also like that feeling that you get of like that self-doubt and the fear and that nervous tension in your body is usually an indication. And that what that experience gave me is like, that is usually an indication that there's a divine something, that is pushing you to do this thing.
Yep.
And I just needed a little bit of that encouragement, and you gave me that on the phone, and I was like, you know what? Stuff it, bro. I'm just gonna do it. And I remember I was like, I need you to promise me that you have to be right there, like by my side. And because a lot of the material was scary.
Yeah.
Stuff that was never asked of me on the show. Mm-hmm. And we ended up doing that stuff, and you pulled some tricks out of your bag, bro, and we got there.
It was some trust balls for sure, man.
Oh, man.
It was some trust balls. I mean, it was like...
And, man, I look back on that movie now, man, and I'm like... I watched clips of it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And, when I need a little, like, ego boost.
No, I watch it, too, because there's a couple of moments in that film that I'm really, really proud of. Like, where I'll watch it, and like it gets me emotional still, and and I think that seems like that's the most narcissistic thing a filmmaker can do. Is I'm watching my own material go, like, it's so good, but there's just something about it that I just really appreciated, and I think it's because what registers with me is like that was such a partnership between the two of us, where you trusted me, and then I just really believed that it was in you, even if you didn't know it was in you yet. And there was a couple of moments where it was just really cool to discover stuff together.
Dude, that movie captured a version of myself that I'll never able to get back. Because
in what way?
Well, it captured a version of myself that I'll never be able to get back, because there's an innocence there that just, as life goes on, inherently gets lost.
Yeah. Yes.
And I've been through so much since that movie, and I think why I watch clips of it is because I look at that guy and tears come to my eyes, because I'm like, I miss you. I miss that guy, and I miss that innocence. But I'm so grateful for everything that I've gone through, and it makes me a deeper human being. But that innocence is like, I can't ever do that kind of performance again, because I was so
wide-eyed,
like pure back then. Yeah, bright-eyed. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Bright-eyed. And oftentimes I'm like, man, how do I get back to that? Or like, how do I, because people always go like, never lose your innocence, hang on to your innocence. Mm-hmm. And I oftentimes, when I watch that stuff, I'm like, stuff that I'm really proud of that I did a while ago, I'm like, man, I wish I could get back to that, but I don't know. We've talked a little bit about that.
I think there's a connection. You can't get back to innocence, but you can get back to gratitude. And I think what I've seen in you, at least, is we all go through stuff that leaves its scars. But when we learn from it, and we come back and embrace that humility, and we learn from it, and we just see God's hand in it, what it's replaced with is gratitude. And I think gratitude is a version of innocence, because there is a bright-eyedness to it of being like, I can't unsee what I've seen, but I appreciate the moment, and I'm grateful for whatever this moment is.
Yeah, man. That reminds me of I'm reading this Herman Hesse book, and Hesse talks about the triadic cycle of humanization, and the first cycle, or the first stage, being innocence as a child, no responsibility. The second being guilt and the knowledge of good and evil, and the behest of culture, morality, human ideals, which moves into realizing that those human ideals are unattainable in reality, which moves into the third, which is faith.
Huh.
But before faith can usually come a downfall for the individual.
Yeah.
And those are the stories, those are my favorite stories. I mean, that's the human story of starting innocent and then moving into realizing the world and what the world is capable of.
Yeah.
And then that being kind of taking you down and then reaching faith. And some people reach faith without the downfall.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person.
Yeah. I'm the hard knocks life kind of guy. Yeah. I got
Dude, I need to be at the bottom of the pit. I'm looking for every nook and cranny down there to make sure that there's nothing down there for me before I pop my head back up.
Like, this isn't working. Help. Like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
But that was that story. That was Jeremy's story too.
Yep. Yeah. And that's why I think you portrayed it so honestly, because I think you found a version of that in yourself that you really deeply believed. And I think along the way there's these moments that we found. I think we found the sound of the music, and that was hard fought with our buddy Paul Mabry, and then Mike Donahue helping. And then I think you found your singing voice that you didn't know you had. You were a guitarist by trade, but you did so awesome with the singing. I loved the music from the film. It holds up. But then there was a couple of moments where it was like the perfect storm where you had to do all of it. And I think there was a fear of like these big emotional moments, but then also having to sing the music live. And the big one that kind of kept you from saying yes for a while was the scene in the hospital with Melissa when she's dying and she asks you to sing the song live. Like, and that was a big day. And like, pushing through that moment, like it was one of my proudest moments I've ever been a part of in a film. Britt, I know, said the same thing. What are your recollections of that day? My recollections of that day was you hadn't slept in like 3 days. Yeah, I hadn't slept all that night because I was just terrified. There was actually another moment where Jeremy's reading his letter from Melissa that he finds in the guitar after he smashes it. Yep. And that scene was more terrifying, believe it or not, than the scene for me. Because you had never done, like, you've done emotion, but not like raw emotion like that. Like that was a big step. Not real emotion. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'd never, to be honest with you, before that scene, I had never really had gushing emotion like that. Yeah. That came straight from the material that I was working on, not from my own life. Yep. And that was the first time that I'd connected so much to my character and what was in front of my character at that given moment. And it was because you played this, you had recorded Brett reading the letter behind the track of the movie. Yep, the music's playing, the music, live while we're recording, and I just completely threw me, and I'm reading this letter, and it plays, and it just you broke. It was so beautiful. Like it was like I was like, this could either go great or this could be a train wreck, but I think it's gonna work. And so, Britt, dude, I don't know how you pulled that off, because that could have. What if I was like, what is going? Well, I knew you trust me, and I did give you the option. I said, I've got a surprise for you, but like, and you're like, what if it doesn't work? And I was like, I can tell you, but it's not going to be as powerful. And you did one of the most vulnerable things an actor could do. You turned to me and you're like, I trust you. Do what you need to do. And so we had wired the room, and then as soon as you smash the guitar, pick up the letter, and then all of a sudden the sound engineer pushed play, and the genuine shock in your eyes, and you just gave into the moment. And my only job was to get you there because I knew it was inside of you. It was just fear that holds it back. How do you know? How can you know that as a director? When you're working with an actor, how can you see that and actually know that it's in there? Like, I believed you. Like, I didn't believe in you. I believed you. Like, I didn't feel like there was a fakeness about you. I didn't feel like there was superficial. I feel like for instance, when we were doing the auditions, And we had several girls that were doing chemistry reads before we found Britt. And after every audition, you whether the girl really had a chance or not that they're doing the chemistry read with you, you walked them to the elevator, had a genuine moment where you looked them in the eyes and said, "Thank you for coming. It's such a pleasure to explore this with you." You cared. You deeply cared. And I think the first tell for me was that first phone call, and it's because you were scared of doing the material, and somebody that's scared of doing the material, it's because they want to do so well at it, they care. That reveals that they care. So just those signs meant like, this guy deeply cares about doing this right. So it was just my job to get fear out of the way. And so as soon as you had that moment, that first take, in that moment, all of a sudden you're like, holy cow, I didn't know I could do that. And after that, you had the confidence to go there as much as you needed to.
Oh man, that was one of the best days of my life. You know, when you hit something that hard and you just are like, okay, that was in the bag. I remember jumping in that van. You were like, done. We don't need to do that again.
Yep.
I jumped in the van, went home, and it was the best day of my life.
That's incredible. And then we took it to the next level in that the scene in the hospital, because you had to play the song live. And, you know, at first there was that extra fear of like, this is like, I know I can do the emotion, but now I've got to sing and I've got to do all this stuff at the same time. And we pushed through it. And the same thing happened again, where, you know, we took a break in between setups and sat in the boiler room, and I sat down beside you. I remember you had your hoodie on, you put your hoodie over your head, and I sat down beside you, and you're like, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. And I was like, and I remember I looked over at you, I was like, well, bud, there's a crew of 200 people in there that aren't leaving till you do. And then I was like, you do your best work when you're ticked off. And I was like, your wife is in the next room dying, you're ticked off. And I was like, don't fight it, just go with it. And you went in and you pushed through it, and you found this moment where it was just so authentic that after that take, Britt jumps out. I mean, Britt's playing a woman that's dying. She jumps out of the hospital bed, jumps in your arms. It's like, that's the favorite thing I've ever been a part of, that scene. And so, you know, it was a moment. It was really cool.
Man, I mean, you are every actor's dream.
Oh,
you know, seriously, man. Like after that movie, you know, you shouldn't have expectations on anyone before you work with them, or anyone in general.
Sure.
But it's hard for me not to, you know, have that standard, you know, but you don't get that from every director, especially in TV. You know, it's more about the machine running.
Yep.
And that experience gave me, you know, I now have a certain level of respect for myself, and the relationship that I have with like, that's the most important relationship. And that's something that I learned from that movie too. It's like, I don't care about anything else other than the relationship I have with this director and the actors that I'm working with, you know?
So you've got a new movie. I just got a chance to see it today. I just watched it this morning, and it's called One Fast Movie. And it's like it's a motorcycle racing movie. And I remember you took it. You said yes to it, and it was a Sunday morning, and you called me, and so I stepped out. I was actually at church. I stepped out of church, and I was like, "Yeah, hey, Cage, what you need?" And you said, I took this movie, we start filming tomorrow, and I've got that fear of whether this material is too, you know, if it's above me or not. And I asked you, I said, listen, I said, the things that you can control, do you like the material? And you're like, I love the script, it's incredible. I was like, do you trust the director? You're like, Kelly's one of my great friends, I trust him implicitly. I was like, then you're the same actor in the boiler room. Like, same actor. So that's the only two boxes you got to check. Is this a story that has something you want to say, and is it a storyteller you trust? And you're like, yeah. So you're the same actor. And you're like, that's all I needed. And you hung up. You're like, I'm good. And then I saw the movie, and that fight scene between you and Eric Dane and the resolution on the back of the truck is fantastic. Fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Great acting.
Yeah, man. Kelly's another one of those directors. And yeah, it's like, I just cared. I really cared about that. We developed that for a few years before we started shooting. And again, like, I believed in Kelly. I knew that he had it, and we immediately became, really, really good friends. He's almost like a mentor to me, in life too,
That's cool.
We're born on the same day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that was a ride too. And it's like I didn't even need to watch the movie to know.
Yeah, you felt it.
I felt it, man. Like it was just all in the process, similar to one I Still Believe. Just the process of doing it and just having this like unwavering confidence that what you're making is I don't even want to use the word good, but just true to the moment,
Yeah.
So I'm glad. Yeah, man. I'm glad you like. I can't wait for it to come out. Because it's a tone that I haven't really. It's a tone.
It's really gritty. It's got a really gritty. It's redemptive, and it has heart, but it's a hard earned kind of gritty. There's no polished edges to it.
Yeah, and those are the kind of movies that I want to be a part of. There's so much out there these days. So many movies and stories that are just saturated with. There's no hope or redemption in a lot of these stories being told now.
Yeah.
And I feel like as a society, for some reason, we're being drawn to psychotic, evil characters that don't really have much hope or even
really
positivity.
Very bleak.
Yeah, I need to be entertained. I need to have some kind of hope, some kind of redemption. And I want to remember why the character had to change and how the character had to change. And I want to remember that for forever.
Yeah.
I guess that's the point of watching a great movie. And those are the movies that I want to be a part of. Those are the characters that I want to lend myself to. I sometimes I get through a movie sometimes, and when it doesn't have those qualities, I sometimes am like, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
Because for me to sit down for that long is already a tough thing.
Yeah, your attention span.
And I watched, dude, you know what? I watched Staying Alive with John Travolta.
Wow, man, that's awesome. I love it.
For the first time, and Sylvester Stallone directed it.
Yeah.
That movie is so good. I love John Travolta. I think he's my favorite actor right now.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
He's so committed and so charismatic and like goofy.
Yeah.
And charming, and just commits to like the dancing.
Yep.
The dancing part of it, and he's so good, man.
Yeah,
no one could have done that.
I love back. I used to watch like classic TV a lot growing up, and I used to watch Welcome Back, Kotter, which was like a comedy, like about like it's a class of misfits in New Jersey, and John Travolta was like young, like probably 20 years old on that show. And he played this character Barbarino, and he was hysterical. He just owned every scene.
Really,
so,
he's funny.
He's so funny. He's fun. He's
a funny guy.
He's hysterical. I love how you discover things like that. Like when we were doing I Still Believe, we played this big music festival, and you played in front of like 40,000 people. Like had to do the part for the movie, and we picked up the shots there. And so you're out on the stage, and we got done with it. And as we left, we're walking out, and this older guy comes up to get your autograph. And it's like, he comes up with a bunch of cameras all of a sudden, just kind of descend on this moment. And they're taking pictures, and he's like, wants to get a selfie with you. And you're really kind to him, really nice. And then we get back in the bus, and you're like, who was that guy? I was like, that was Jimmy Buffett. You're like, who's Jimmy Buffett? I was like, Margaritaville. You're like, dude, what's Margaritaville? I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm not going to lie to you. It must have gone through one ear and right out the other, because I still don't know.
That's hilarious, man. That's so funny. That's really hysterical. Anyway.
Wait, who's Jimmy Buffett again?
He's a big deal. He's a big deal. He's classic rock guy. Like, yeah, he's awesome.
I should know that. I should probably know that.
That's awesome. I love that you still don't. I love that about you, because you discover things. Like, you'll have things that like you're like super committed to. It's like Van Halen. That's it. I love it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, there's nothing else. It's like, and you zero on it,
like
and you're like so committed. You're like, John Travolta, don't know these other guys. I'm like, what about Sylvester Stallone? Same time period. Don't even know that guy. It's John Travolta. And so, like, I love that about you. I think there is still this innocence that I like.
Yeah.
You know, for you, the other thing about you that I discovered on the film was you're a prankster. Like, you like your jokes. And you used to walk around set, and you would do these selfies with people, not telling them that you're like, streaming live on Instagram, and it was just a video, and they're just standing there looking at the camera like an idiot until they caught on. And like, I think you did it, and like, you did it to me like 3 or 4 times, and every single time I fell for it. I'd be like,
Yeah, there's the other one too with the hot water. You pretend you have an empty cup
Uh-huh.
and you blow on it. You walk up to someone, you blow on it like as if it's really hot,
Uh-huh.
and then you trip over and pretend that the things that they go, whoa. I still do that.
You still
to this
do that
day.
to
I
this
still do
day?
that. I don't do the selfie one anymore, but I still the hot water one is the best. You get people every time with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like what's your best prank that you've pulled off or that's been pulled off on you?
I don't know, man. I can't think of it. I can't think of it right
So
now.
it hasn't been pulled off yet.
I'm usually the guy that's pulling pranks on people. I
Okay.
was the guy on set of Riverdale.
What did you do on Riverdale?
Oh, I would go into people. I mean, we were so close. So I was at,
Yeah.
I would go into people's trailers and hide in there and scare them and video it. Charles usually was my favorite one to do, but I
That's
shared
awesome.
a trailer with Cole, a 2-banger with Cole, and he got the brunt of it most of the time.
That's incredible. I love it. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So like for you, like you talked a little bit about your Samoan heritage. And so, KJ stands for Kennedy James. What does Kennedy mean?
Kennedy is, I'm named after my father. So my dad's name is Kennedy, and Samoans love President Kennedy.
Huh.
And so a lot of Samoans were named, Kennedy is the Samoan version of Kennedy.
Oh my
So
gosh.
there's not a lot of Samoans named that, but when Kennedy died, I think it was a lot of Samoans named their kids that to commemorate. That's how my dad was named, Kennedy by his parents. But yeah,
Huh.
it's
I had no
named
clue.
after President Kennedy.
So what was it about President Kennedy that
I don't actually know. I need to ask my dad. I don't know.
Huh.
But Samoans love naming their children very obscure. You get a lot of weird names.
Huh.
A lot of weird names, like fishing net and just like items.
Wow.
Like some kind of object or item. It's really common to get some kind of stranger, bizarre kind of names.
Huh. So with your dad is the chief of your village back home, and then they had a ceremony not like a few years ago where you became like in that line of chiefs for the village. Like talk to me about that. Like what all that was about.
Yeah. So my dad is the chief of a village that he grew up in. That his father was held that chief title that he has now and passed it on to my dad after he passed. And the village that my dad is from is called Mota'a.
Uh-huh.
And the title that I received a few years ago, the name of the title is Savai, and that title is of a branch off of Mota'a called Taumeasina, and that's that titleship is from that village. But that was it was a very spiritual experience. I kind of got talked into it from my uncles,
Yeah.
because they wanted me to do it. I was pretty busy at the time, but I managed to get back to New Zealand. I was able to bring my son, who was a little baby too, and actually Charles, my friend Charles Melton, was also with me during that whole thing too. But it was a pretty big moment for me in my life, just because the spirituality that comes with Samoan culture is really intense. Everything is culture based and respect orientated, and there's responsibility that comes with it, because it's not something that I take lightly.
Yeah.
Your name does like legally change into Savai, so that's literally that's my name now. That's how Samoans greet me when I go back home, and how my family greets me. And I actually thought about like when people watch, to have it on the credits, because it means a lot.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me. I think names are so important.
They are.
They carry a lot of power.
I love this. I love the connection to your father. Your father, he's a good man. He's he's a man of faith. He's a strong man. I got to be honest, he intimidates me a little bit. Like
he intimidates a lot of people.
Yeah, like he was when he was on the red carpet for I Still Believe. I was like, I respect and am terrified of this man. He's like, he's intense. He's got.
Imagine him being your dad as a young kid,
dude. Oh my gosh, it's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
No, man, I'm so grateful. Like I would not have the work ethic and the the values that I have now if it weren't for my dad,
Mm.
you know. And it's interesting as a father now.
Yeah, what's that been
I was
like?
thinking this as I think about it a lot. Like, I think as you grow up, I assumed that I would be the same father as my father
Yeah,
to my children. But that's not how it works. You know what I mean? You have your own experiences and you have your own life experience that ultimately will affect the way that you parent your children. And there's things that I take and there's things that I don't take. And um, being a father is like so intense.
dude, it is. It is.
It's like the most intense thing I've ever,
Well,
I'll probably
I think
ever
all the
experience.
feelings that come up is, number one, nobody gave me an instruction manual on this, and like I've got to, I'm responsible. So you feel that, and then it also unlocks this part of your heart where you feel so much more deeply. It's like this whole side of you that gets unlocked by having a kid. It's both.
Because how many, what was your relationship like with your dad, and how much of that influenced the father that you are now?
You know, I think, for my dad, we've grown a lot, especially in recent years. But my dad was very similar to yours, where he was a figurehead. Like, he was known in the community, and there was a certain standard there, and you always are like trying to figure out how to live up to that. And then with his father is the same thing. My grandfather was a war hero, and so in a generation that didn't really know how to talk about their feelings. And so I think, each round we kind of, I think, maybe connected a little bit more, but it was always a figurehead. It's like, how do I live up to Hank Erwin? Like, he's a big deal.
Right.
And so I think when I became a dad, it was a little bit of like, who am I in this equation? And
because I got to meet your parents on I Still Believe.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Hank's a legend.
He's a legend. I mean, he's always he's like a diplomat. He's always out, like, Dad, you're not running for office, but it's kind of like he's always running for office. And so yeah, he's a legend. He's a legend. Getting votes. But he but I think with my son, just trying to figure out, like, learn from what your parents did, and then try to figure out, like, what do you wish you had had more of when you were a kid, and how do you give a little bit more of that to your kid? So it's a challenge.
It is a challenge. It's this challenge too when it's a challenge too when you want to be consistent in the way that you parent your kid too, and like, and especially when it comes to like teaching them what's right and what's wrong, and ultimately you want them to figure that out for themselves. But like, I think my upbringing, I knew that what I'd done wrong because, I got shown, sometimes it was gnarly. I got shown why I was wrong, and this is why you don't do that. And here's what's going to happen to you if you do it again. And I did it again, and sure enough, that thing would happen to me. But it's just such a different, especially raising a son.
Yes.
It's so different nowadays with, I find it, especially in LA, it's so interesting, man, being around other parents. And everyone's different, and everyone parents differently, which I think is great. But I think LA, maybe it's actually just everywhere. But it's interesting how other people will try and, you'll be at the playground or something, and someone will try and tell you how to do something.
Free
And I'm like,
advice.
actually, I didn't ask you. You know what I mean? Why don't you mind your own business?
They're judging. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, thanks. I appreciate that. I didn't ask. I don't even know you.
And I was terrified. About raising Sasha in LA. I could never imagine raising a child in LA because growing up in New Zealand, it's just a boy's dream.
Yeah, you're just outdoors, like, all doing your thing.
Yeah. And now that I'm doing it, it's like, it's good because I do love LA. And I love being in America. And so yeah, it's just like there's a new thing every day.
Dude.
There's a new thing.
I'm looking forward to meeting Sasha. Like, he's I've never been there when he's been around, but I can't wait to meet him, man. It's
me too, dude. He's a beast. He's
cool.
a little legend.
That's cool. Future legend. The couple last things as we wrap things up. Like, for you, I know as you kind of turn the corner into like what's next for you, like what do you feel like makes a really good storyteller you want to work with? And what stories in your heart do you want to keep telling? I knew you were talking about hope. What is it, the stuff that you really is in your heart to explore?
Right now, I'm really drawn to. I just watched a John Cassavetes movie,
Mm-hmm.
Killing of a Chinese Bookie. I'm drawn to tone that feels real to me, and I think I got that from One Fast Move, and I think watching that back gave me a lot of. It just really inspired me because some of my favorite movies, like Scott Cooper movies, John Cassavetes.
Scott Cooper stuff is great. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, at least right now in my life, I think coming off of the show and being in this heightened reality for such a long time, I'm drawn to real characters and performance-driven stories, and performance-driven directors. You know,
Yeah.
And I think I love shooting. Like the experience of One Fast Move felt very documentary, almost like the camera was just a fly on the wall.
Yeah. It was beautifully shot.
That's the kind of style of filmmaking that I'm drawn to right now, and it always changes.
Yeah.
It could change tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The themes of redemption.
Yeah.
I just, all my favorite stories are stories of redemption.
Yep.
And the Bob Marley movie.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. I've been listening to so much Bob Marley, and I'm really excited to watch that movie too. But I've been reading a lot about Bob Marley and stuff too, and he says something that sometimes the message becomes the messenger. And I thought that was so, I had me thinking for such a long time, and you get characters like that, these iconic figures that were just, there's characters that were just born to change the world and to change the way people think and to unite a whole country. And of course, those kind of characters are few and far between, but there's characters that do that through music, and there's artists that do that through any kinds of expression. I think having the ability to play those kind of characters that are working in all of those huge themes that have such a broad scope of lives that they can touch.
Yeah.
I mean, we did that with Jeremy Camp. Those are my favorite characters because they have this weight on their shoulders to inspire.
Yeah. I'm excited about that for you because I do think in the season of gratitude that you're in, and like I think there's such a grounded quality to you that you've grown up so much. And part of that's life experiences, part of that's being a dad. But I think you've always had that heart for redemption and, finding stories that really, really matter and things that you really believe in. And so, dude, I'm excited for you. I can't wait for you and I to get the chance to explore one of those again together. Cause like, I trust you implicitly. I would love to do another film, or many more together.
Me too, dude. So it's going to happen at some point, I'm sure.
No, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Well, it's up to you, actually. So.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be epic. We've got some in the, cooking that have your name all over it. But, when we were doing, I used to believe, you were really into comedy. That was your thing, like obsessed with like Jim Carrey and stuff like that. Is that still, is comedy still, or is
I'm still, man. I'll never grow out of it. I love comedy. Dude, if you could see the stuff that I would be doing in this house alone, ridiculous.
I would catch you sometimes looking in the mirror, perfecting your Jim Carrey faces. Exactly. I'd be looking over. I was like, "Who are you doing that for?" You're like, "Oh, I didn't know you were looking at me." That's so good.
It's so funny. Sasha does it now.
Does
too.
he?
I'll go, Sasha, do the face, and he'll do all these weird faces. But it's because he watches me in the car. You know what I mean? I'll be doing all this weird stuff in the car. But comedy, yeah, man, I love comedy. I think the last season of Riverdale, season 7, really gave me. They pretty much let me do anything with the character. It's based in the 50s, the last season.
Yeah.
And so there's that kind of the spirit and the energy that comes with being in that time, which really infused another spice to Archie.
Yeah.
And that was my most enjoyable. Like I enjoyed that season.
That's cool.
So much more than all the other ones because I just had so much fun with the character, and I actually got the opportunity to watch a lot of it last week, and I was so stoked with it.
That's cool.
And it really made me want to, it's like there's so many. I think with all the content coming out, like we were talking about earlier, everything's so heavy.
Yeah.
Like it's all the really heavy stuff that gets a lot of attention right now, which is great. But like we just can't forget about like just watching a movie just to have a laugh.
Just a laugh.
You know what I mean? Like I remember Vince Vaughn, dude.
Oh, Vince Vaughn. Like,
what happened to those kind of movies?
Once. He's like 10 feet tall. And
is he cool?
He's cool. He was super cool. Like just kind of lets it all hang out. Just like, I don't care what you think of me type thing. And
he seems like that kind of guy. Yeah,
he was cool. He was really, really cool. With so like with Riverdale being kind of a movie, a show that's in the past, kind of that throwback. Like, so playing Time Machine, if you could go back in time to any comedy you've watched and redo it, and you play the lead in it, what would that movie be, and what would you do?
Wedding Crashers.
Wedding Crashers.
And actually, I changed my mind.
You changed your mind. Okay,
it'll be Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber.
Either Dumb and Dumber,
dude,
or Zoolander.
Zoolander's a good one. Yeah. Dumb and Dumber is a perfect one. Like,
I would love to play Lloyd.
Yes. Yeah. I see. I mean, in that case, I might actually could star in it with you, and I could be Harry. I go a clean shaved Harry. I all the time. Anytime somebody asks me, like, if there's an event that we're doing and they're asking me what the dress code is for it, I send them a meme of Harry and Lloyd in the blue and the orange tux, and I'm like,
that is the most incredible. So when I see those movies like Ace Ventura and stuff, like, were those movies written for him?
I guess.
Or did he just come in and do that with the character? Like,
I don't know. It's like, in the case of Dumb and Dumber,
it was bigger than everything.
Yeah, in the case of Dumb and Dumber, the Farrelly brothers that did that, they're just like, it was the Farrellys, right, that did that one. It was like, they were just so quirky, and it just fit. And it's my favorite thing Jeff Daniels has ever done. Like, he's so good in that with Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
but
that was out of left field for him at that point too.
So I showed Isaac, my 15-year-old. We watched it for the first time about 6 months ago, and like we laughed until we cried. It was fantastic. It was a great father-son moment.
But my favorite scene is when he's seeing the girl that he's in love with, Lloyd. He's looking at the girl. He's like hiding in the bushes, watching her, and he's like crying, but he's throwing up at the same time.
So good. Oh, dude.
So good.
Let's do a remake. We'll do a remake. Man, Cage, I absolutely love you, bro. And I do want to say, like, at the season of life you're in, I just feel like the best is yet to come, because I just do see that gratitude in you. I see the being present, being still, being, very sure of who you are. And man, I think what's going to come out of that are some special, special stories. And then I think you need to start producing too, because I think we need to make some movies together that you are like, these are things you create, the stuff you want to be in. But man, I believe in you, bro, and really appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you, bro. I love you too, man. I know it's going to happen soon. I know we're going to work together again pretty soon.
It's going to happen, bro. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to go in the other room, and I'm going to figure out how to make it happen. So love you, bro.
All right, bro.
For being on the show. The thing I love about KJ is just how he fights so hard to really appreciate the moment. And there's something about him that is just, it makes me smile every time I'm around him. I think the thing that is relatable about KJ is what he talked about that idea of your worth not being at the high moments or the low moments of your career, but finding your worth outside of the noise around you. And being on a show like Riverdale, like, it's so noisy. There's so many people that are clamoring for your attention. But the thing of understanding that I think is a little bit, for artists, and I've felt moments of this in my career too, is when you have these moments where you're the most hot current thing, and everybody's talking about you, they're so fleeting and they don't last. And then all of a sudden, if your value is in when all the noise is going on around you, then when it's gone, or you have a moment that you're in between things, you just really fall apart without it. And just learning to find your value in who you are as a person and who God says you are, and really finding that outside of your career, so that when you have moments, you just have an appreciation. of this is cool. This really was a fun thing to be a part of, but it won't last. And you just find things that really matter. And that's where you've become, having something to say rather than just being at the mercy of the mob chasing the applause. And I've seen that in KJ. Like, I've seen him work through that progression, and he chases things that have meaning, whether it's one of his paintings, whether it's being a dad, whether it's his Samoan heritage and his family, or whether it's the next project he's been a part of or what he just finished. He just has an appreciation and a gratitude for the moment and finding things that matter. I think that has something to say. So for you guys as young artists out there, find things that matter and be a part of things that you believe in, not because of the applause, but because of what they represent. And that's when you give hope to people. So that's our show today. Enjoyed having you along for the ride. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next edition of The Storytellers.
The Storytellers is a Kingdom Story Company production. It is produced by Nick Carey with production assistance from Ben and Justin Bailey. Our executive producers are Kevin Downs and Brandon Gregory. Social media for the show is run by the team at Troops and Allies, and our music is Twisted Rooster by Tommy Profit. Special thanks to Jaron Weatherly, Evan Johnston, and our entire team at Kingdom Story Company. We have so many exciting guests coming up this season. To ensure you don't miss any of them, subscribe to The Storytellers for free on YouTube at Kingdom Story Company or wherever you listen to podcasts. For exclusive first looks at our upcoming films, behind-the-scenes content, and invitations to advanced screenings, join the conversation as a Kingdom Insider at kingdomstorycompany.com and follow us at Kingdom Story Company across all platforms. As always, thanks for joining Andrew Erwin and his friends on The Storytellers.